Congregation Bible Study, week of July 2026. Good evening, dear brothers and sisters. Today we have the joy of beginning a new publication provided through the faithful and discreet slave. This book has been prepared to help us strengthen a quality that all of us need very much in these difficult times. Courage. The letter from the governing body and the introduction remind us that Christian courage does not mean that we never feel fear. Courage means that even when we do feel fear, we rely on Jehovah and do what is right in His eyes. Jesus Christ gave us the perfect example of that kind of courage. And throughout the Bible, we find many men and women who were imperfect, who had feelings just like ours, but who became courageous because they trusted in Jehovah. So as we begin this study, we can ask ourselves, where do I need more courage in my life? Do I need courage to make an adjustment, to defend Bible principles, to speak about the truth, or to endure a difficult test? As we study this new book, may each example help us grow stronger and more determined to stand on Jehovah's side. Let us begin. Question 1. According to the governing body's letter, why is this new book especially timely for us today? Answer. This new book is especially timely because we are living in the Lord's day, and the Bible describes our times as critical times hard to deal with. We see that pressure is increasing in many ways. Some brothers and sisters face opposition from family members. Others endure persecution, illness, economic difficulties, or pressure to compromise their faith. So courage is not something we need only once in a while. We need it every day. The governing body's letter helps us see that Jehovah's people around the world are already showing courage. They continue to preach, attend meetings, stay loyal, and defend Bible principles even when it is not easy. But we all need encouragement to keep doing that. This book is timely because it will help us learn from real Bible examples. These were not perfect people. They had emotions, fears, weaknesses, and difficult circumstances. But with Jehovah's help, they acted courageously. Their examples can help us face our own tests with stronger faith and greater confidence in Jehovah. Question 2. The letter mentions 3 specific ways that Bible examples can embolden us. What are they, and why are they important? Answer. The letter mentions 3 important ways that Bible examples can help us become more courageous. First, they can help us make adjustments. Jonathan is a good example of this. Humanly speaking, he could have expected to become king after Saul, but when it became clear that Jehovah had chosen David, Jonathan did not become jealous or bitter. He adjusted his thinking and supported Jehovah's decision. That takes real courage, because sometimes accepting a change is not easy, especially when it affects our expectations or personal desires. Second, Bible examples help us stand up for righteous principles. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah showed this kind of courage when they refused to bow down to the image. They were surrounded by people who were doing the opposite, and their lives were threatened. Still, they chose loyalty to Jehovah. Their example reminds us that courage may be needed when we feel pressure to lower our standards or follow the crowd. Third, Bible examples can help us speak up about the truth. Saul of Tarsus, who became the Apostle Paul, had to speak about Jesus to people who knew his past and to others who opposed the Christian message. That required humility and boldness. So these 3 areas are very practical: courage to adjust, courage to obey, and courage to speak. All 3 are needed if we want to remain faithful in these last days. Question 3. In the introduction, Jesus' words, "Get up, let us go," are called possibly the bravest words any human has ever spoken. Why? Answer: those words are so powerful because of the moment in which Jesus said them. He was in the Garden of Gethsemane. He knew that an armed crowd was coming to arrest him. He also knew what would follow: false accusations, humiliation, physical suffering, and a painful death. He even knew that his disciples would abandon him for a time. Yet Jesus did not run away. He did not try to hide. He did not use his power to avoid the test. Instead, he stood up and moved forward to do Jehovah's will. When he said, "Get up, let us go," he was showing complete courage, complete obedience, and complete love. This was not reckless courage. Jesus was not trying to prove something about himself. His courage came from love for Jehovah and love for mankind. He willingly faced everything necessary to provide the ransom and sanctify his Father's name. That is why those words are among the bravest ever spoken. They show us that true courage means doing Jehovah's will even when the path ahead is painful. Question 4. How does the Bible define true Christian courage? What is it not? Answer: true Christian courage is the inner strength that helps us do what is right in Jehovah's eyes, even when we feel afraid or when the situation is difficult. It is not the absence of fear. Many faithful servants of Jehovah have felt fear. But courage helps us keep going because our trust in Jehovah is stronger than our fear. Christian courage is not recklessness. It is not exposing ourselves to danger unnecessarily, acting aggressively, or trying to appear strong in front of others. That kind of boldness can come from pride or impulsiveness. But Christian courage comes from faith, love, humility, and obedience. This definition is very encouraging because it means that courage is not only for people who naturally seem confident. A shy brother, a young sister, an elderly publisher, or someone who struggles with anxiety can still be courageous. Why? Because courage does not come from personality alone. It comes from trusting in Jehovah and deciding to do what pleases Him. Question 5. How did Jesus show that He is a reasonable King who understands our weaknesses? Why does this help us to be courageous? Answer: Jesus showed His reasonableness in the way He treated His disciples in Gethsemane. He had asked them to stay awake with Him, but they fell asleep. Jesus could have spoken harshly to them, especially because He was under extreme emotional pressure. But instead, He said, "The spirit, of course, is eager, but the flesh is weak." Those words show that Jesus understood their limitations. He did not excuse weakness as if it did not matter, but He also did not crush them for being imperfect. He saw that they wanted to do what was right, even though their flesh was weak. This helps us to be courageous, because we know that Jesus is not unreasonable with us. He knows when we are tired, afraid, discouraged, or emotionally worn down. He does not expect perfection from us. At the same time, He helps us keep going. When He said, "Take courage, I have conquered the world," He was giving His disciples reason to be strong. So we can draw close to Jesus with confidence. His understanding does not make us careless, it makes us want to keep trying. Knowing that He sees our efforts and believes we can succeed with Jehovah's help gives us courage to continue. Question 6. What examples from the governing body letter and the introduction show that imperfect humans can be courageous? Answer: the letter and the introduction remind us that many Bible characters were ordinary humans with feelings like ours. They were not fearless by nature, and they were not perfect, but they became courageous because they trusted in Jehovah. Jonathan showed courage by accepting Jehovah's choice of David and supporting him loyally. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah showed courage by refusing to worship an image even when their lives were threatened. Saul of Tarsus, later the Apostle Paul, showed courage by completely changing his course in life and boldly preaching about Jesus. The introduction also reminds us of others, such as Elijah. James says that Elijah had feelings like ours. That means he was not a man made of stone. He had emotions, moments of pressure, and times when he needed Jehovah's support. Yet Jehovah helped him act with courage. These examples are very encouraging because they show that Jehovah does not use only naturally strong people. He can strengthen anyone who trusts in him. So when we feel weak, nervous, or unsure of ourselves, we can remember that courage is something Jehovah can help us develop. Question 7. What is the goal of this new publication, and what can we do to benefit fully from it? Answer. The goal of this publication is to help us become more courageous so that we can endure faithfully during these difficult last days. Each chapter will help us examine a Bible character or account that teaches us something about courage. But to benefit fully, we should not study the book in a superficial way. We can read each account carefully, try to understand the background, and imagine what the person may have felt. We can ask ourselves, what pressure did this servant of Jehovah face? What helped him or her act with courage? What does this teach me about Jehovah? How can I apply this in my life? It will also help to pray before we study. We can ask Jehovah to show us where we personally need courage. Maybe we need courage to accept a change, to speak to someone about the truth, to resist pressure, to endure illness, or to keep serving despite discouragement. As we study, we will not just learn about Bible characters. We will come to know Jehovah better. We will see how he supported his servants in the past, and that will strengthen our confidence that he will support us today. The promise at Hebrews 13:5-6 gives us the courage we need. I will never leave you, and I will never abandon you. So we can say with confidence, Jehovah is my helper. I will not be afraid. That is the spirit this new publication can help us develop. Welcome, dear brothers and sisters, to our treasured time of searching for spiritual gems from this week's Bible reading. In Jeremiah chapters 18 and 19, Jehovah uses an illustration that has comforted and sobered his servants for centuries. He sends the prophet to the house of a potter, where he sees a vessel marred in the potter's hands, and then reshaped into another vessel as the potter sees fit. Immediately, Jehovah declares, as the clay in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand. Then, in chapter 19, the lesson becomes even more vivid. Jeremiah is told to buy an earthenware flask and smash it before the elders, a powerful warning that a hardened nation, beyond repair, would be broken. These two chapters teach us about Jehovah's absolute sovereignty, his patience, and the importance of remaining soft and pliable in his hands. As we share our gems today, let's ask ourselves, am I allowing the great potter to shape me, even when the process is uncomfortable? Do I trust his right to mold my life and my circumstances? And am I quick to respond when he calls me to turn back? Let's open our hearts and share what we have found. Who has a gem to start us off? Let's begin. How is Jehovah the great potter? Jehovah is the great potter because he holds absolute authority over all creation, just as a potter holds authority over the clay. The Bible uses this illustration repeatedly to teach us about his sovereignty, his right to shape, and his right to judge. First, Jehovah has the right to shape individuals and nations according to his will. In Jeremiah chapter 18, he sent the prophet to the potter's house, where a vessel was being made. When it was spoiled, the potter did not throw the clay away, he reworked it into another vessel as he saw fit. Then Jehovah said, "As the clay in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand." This teaches us that Jehovah is not a distant observer. He is actively involved, molding and shaping his people. If we become marred by sin or discouragement, he can rework us into something useful, provided we remain pliable. No human can say to the potter, "Why did you make me this way?" We are in no position to challenge the one who formed us. Jehovah has the sovereign right to deal with nations. The principle in Jeremiah chapter 18 verses 7 through 10 shows that if a nation repents, Jehovah will reconsider the calamity he intended. If a nation turns to evil, he will withhold the good. No kingdom or government is beyond his control. He raises up and pulls down according to his purpose. Today, we see nations boasting of their power, but the great potter is never intimidated. His will prevails over every human ruler. Jehovah has the right to execute judgment. In Jeremiah chapter 19, he told Jeremiah to buy an earthenware flask, take the elders to the valley of Hinnom, and then smash the flask before their eyes. The message was clear: "This is how I will break this people and this city." Like someone who breaks a potter's vessel so that it can never be repaired. A marred clay vessel can be reshaped while still soft, but a fired vessel that is smashed cannot be put back together. Judah had become hard and stubborn. They refused to be molded. So judgment was irreversible. Jehovah, as the great potter, has the authority not only to shape, but also to destroy what has become irreparably wicked. Next question. What spiritual gems from this week's Bible reading would you like to share? Jeremiah 18:1-6. Jehovah sent Jeremiah to the house of a potter, where he saw the potter working on the wheels. The vessel he was making was spoiled in his hand, so he reworked it into another vessel, just as he saw fit. Then Jehovah said, "As the clay in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand." This illustration teaches us about Jehovah's sovereignty and his desire to shape us. But note, the clay was not passive because it was worthless, it was pliable, and the potter reshaped it. If we become marred by sin or discouragement, Jehovah does not throw us away. He can rework us, but we must remain moist and soft in his hands. Hardened clay cannot be molded. We stay soft by being humble, prayerful, and responsive to his word. The question is, am I allowing Jehovah to shape me, or have I become rigid and set in my own ways? Jeremiah 18:7-10. Here Jehovah reveals a principle of his dealings. If he purposes to uproot a nation for its wickedness, and that nation repents, he will change his mind about the calamity. Conversely, if he plans to bless a nation, and it turns to evil, he will withhold the good. This does not mean Jehovah is indecisive. Rather, his dealings are conditional on human response. It shows his mercy and justice in perfect balance. For us, this is deeply encouraging. We can never say, "I have sinned too much, Jehovah will not forgive me." If we turn back, he will welcome us. But it is also a sobering warning. We cannot presume on his favor if we are living a double life. Our relationship with Jehovah is dynamic, and he responds to the condition of our heart. Jeremiah 18:12. Despite Jehovah's loving appeal to turn back, the people replied, "It is hopeless. For we will walk after our own thoughts, and each of us will act according to the stubbornness of his wicked heart. This is the essence of rebellion. They were not ignorant. They were defiant. They chose their own path and rejected divine guidance. This is a stark warning. A heart can become so hardened that it no longer desires to change. We must guard against that gradual hardening. When we hear counsel, when we read a scripture that convicts us, we should respond immediately with humility. The longer we delay, the easier it becomes to justify our course. May we never adopt the attitude, "It is hopeless, I will do what I want." Jeremiah 18:18-20. The people devised a plot against Jeremiah, saying they would ignore his words because the law, counsel, and word would remain through the priests, wise men, and prophets. In other words, they discredited Jeremiah and clung to their own corrupted spiritual leaders. Jeremiah's response was to pour out his heart to Jehovah. He had pleaded for them, stood before Jehovah to turn away his wrath, and they repaid him with evil. This teaches us that we may be rejected, even by those we have tried to help spiritually. But like Jeremiah, we can take our pain to Jehovah. He knows our heart and our efforts. When others misunderstand or mistreat us, we can trust Jehovah to set matters right. We do not need to take revenge, we need to stay faithful. Jeremiah 19:1 and 2. Jehovah told Jeremiah to buy an earthenware flask and take the elders to the valley of Hinnom to proclaim a message. The flask was not just a prop, it was a visual aid that made the message unforgettable. Today, Jehovah's organization uses simple illustrations, videos, and demonstrations to help us grasp spiritual truths. We do well to pay close attention to these teaching tools because they are designed to reach our heart in ways that words alone may not. When we use illustrations in our own ministry or family worship, we imitate the great teacher. Jeremiah 19:73. The message was so shocking that the ears of anyone hearing it would tingle. Jehovah's judgments are not mild or forgettable, they are designed to awaken people. When we preach about the coming day of judgment, we should not water down the message to make it more palatable. At the same time, the tingling ears remind us that people should be stirred, not repelled. We can present the truth with conviction and love, trusting that it will reach honest hearts. Jeremiah 19:4. The people had made the place unrecognizable by filling it with idolatry and innocent blood. They had drifted so far from Jehovah that their land no longer reflected his holiness. When we allow small compromises to accumulate, we can become unrecognizable as Christians. Our speech, our entertainment choices, our treatment of others may begin to resemble the world. The lesson is clear: stay close to Jehovah so that your life remains recognizable as belonging to him. Jeremiah 19:5. The people were burning their sons in the fire to Baal, something Jehovah had never commanded, nor had it ever come into his heart. This reveals how utterly foreign such cruelty is to our God. Satan paints Jehovah as harsh, but the truth is that Jehovah abhors violence, especially against children. Today, we protect our children by teaching them about Jehovah's love and keeping them far from any form of spiritual or physical harm. We also strengthen our trust in a God who would never conceive of such evil. Jeremiah 19:6. Jehovah declared that Topheth would become the valley of slaughter. The place of sin would become the place of punishment. This reminds us that Jehovah's patience has a limit. Today, the world system is amassing guilt that will be accounted for at Armageddon. That judgment is just as certain as the judgment on Jerusalem. However, we can face it without fear because we have taken refuge in Jehovah's organization and are helping others do the same. Jeremiah 19:10 and 11. Jeremiah smashed the flask before the elders, and Jehovah explained that this was how he would break the people and the city beyond repair. A potter can reshape a marred vessel while it is still soft, but a fired clay jar, once smashed, cannot be remade. This teaches us the urgency of responding to Jehovah while there is still time. Hardened rebellion leads to a point of no return. We must stay pliable and repent quickly when we err. Jeremiah 19:13. The houses of Jerusalem became unclean like Topheth because the people offered sacrifices to the army of the heavens on their rooftops. Their homes, meant to be places of family and peace, became centers of false worship. We can ask ourselves, what is on the rooftop of my heart? What do I display to those who can see me? Our homes and our lives should be places where Jehovah is honored, not where idols like materialism or entertainment reign. Jeremiah 19:14 and 15. Jeremiah returned from Topheth and stood in the courtyard of Jehovah's house to proclaim the same warning to all the people. He did not soften the message despite the danger. Today, we may be tempted to hold back when the truth is unpopular, but Jehovah expects us to be courageous. We can follow Jeremiah's example by sharing the full counsel of God, not just the parts that are easy to hear. Our assignment is to warn, and we leave the results to Jehovah. Jeremiah 19:9. The siege would be so severe that people would eat the flesh of their own children. This horrifying detail shows the depths of suffering that result from abandoning Jehovah's protection. When a person or a nation rejects God, they open the door to unimaginable misery. This reinforces the wisdom of obeying Jehovah now. His commandments are not burdensome. They are a protective wall that shields us from the worst outcomes of sin. Jeremiah 19:15. The final verse sums up the reason for the judgment. They stubbornly refuse to obey my words. Stubbornness is not a small flaw. It is a posture of the heart that says, I will not be told what to do. Jehovah reads the heart, and stubbornness provokes his anger. We want to cultivate a meek and teachable spirit. When we receive counsel, whether from the platform, a publication, or a concerned brother, we should listen and apply it. That humble disposition leads to life.